Hello, TBB babes. Today we are joined by the lovely Morgan. I am so excited for you guys to come and hang out with us today. And this is the first time we're ever recording in the Bottled Blonde studio.
I'm honored.
We are missing the light up sign, but we're attempting. Still needs to be hung.
It's fine. It still looks cute.
Oh, thank you. Oh, wow. Okay, let's hear all about Morgan. I want to hear all about the challenge, how you came into the influencer space, like a little bit of everything.
Like just like a brief, brief
brief
Cliff Notes version of my life. Okay.
Yes.
So I grew up in the middle of nowhere called Granbury, Texas. You've never heard of it, don't worry. I did not ride a pony to school. Everyone's like, so like, are you from like country? I'm like, yeah, but like it's not like what people think. It is very different than obviously LA. But then I got my start on Big Brother. I was fresh out of college, 22 years old, wandered onto that show, somehow won. We're still confused about how exactly that happened because I had never seen an episode ever.
That's so crazy.
Like
how did they reach out to you? Instagram?
So I actually reached out to them. Like I sent a casting director, believe it or not, a DM on Twitter. Which is like such a random,
I would love to join.
such a random platform. Like
Yeah.
But my sister, she sent it to me, and I was working my first 9-to-5 job, the only corporate job I've ever worked in my whole entire life. Obviously,
what was it?
I was a PR assistant, so it was a publicist firm in Austin. They actually did really cool. They did like music festivals, so in theory, it sounded cool.
Yeah.
But then I realized like sitting in a desk, answering phones, like that whole corporate life was not for me.
Yeah.
So I went home crying every day, and finally my sister's like, I'm so sick of hearing you complain about this job. Like, here's a tweet, message this guy, like if you want to get out. So I ended up taking a shot, messaged him, he got back to me. They kind of like fast forwarded me through the whole process.
That's crazy. One DM on Twitter completely changed everything.
Changed my whole entire life. And that's why like I always tell people, I'm like, just say yes. Like take a chance. You don't know who you're going to meet, where an opportunity is going to lead you. Because like had I been like, oh no, like I'm going to stick with the corporate life, like make my dad proud, like just stick with it. I don't know where I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. Like it's just mind blowing to like kind of think of it that way. But anyways, I won. I moved to LA. That's kind of where I got my toes wet. Is that the phrase?
Toes wet?
Toes wet?
Yeah.
Dip your toes in the pond.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know cliches. I'm like, shit, is that the right one? Anyway, I got my toes wet or feet wet or whatever it is. But I moved to LA, and that's when I first kind of started dabbling in influencing, which is my full-time job now. Nothing like what I'm doing. I think back then I was doing like a teeth whitening ad for $100.
Gotcha.
And I thought I was like hot shit.
Why did you move to LA? Like what was there like a breaking point? Was this was post the TV show? Like was there a moment that you were like, oh my God, I have to get out of here?
I think it was, I lived in LA, locked in the Big Brother house for 65 days. And then afterwards I spent a week kind of exploring, and I think I just realized there was more opportunity out here. And I was like, you're either going to move now, like when you quit your job, you want a sum of money, like you have the means to do it, or you're never going to.
Yeah.
So it was like, it was now or never. So I found a girl, Shelby from Big Brother, who I was on the season with. She also wanted to move to LA. We're like, let's do it. Let's live together. So I kind of just was going to try it out. Initially, I didn't even want to do influencing full time. My degree's in broadcast journalism. So I wanted to come out here and try and be an entertainment reporter, like on E! News. Like,
oh my God, I love. That's literally one of my friends, Jessie. I'll have to introduce you. She works for E! News and literally studied broadcast journalism. Yeah,
I wanted to be Jessie. So I moved out here with the hopes of doing that. Quickly realized it is so oversaturated and it is so difficult to actually get where you want to be. Like for the first 6 months was trying like different gigs, building my reel. I didn't make a cent.
It's so hard. I think too, what people don't realize and what's like a huge misconception about that industry, people think you instantly go in and you make one connection and then you're on the show. That is so rare to happen, especially in those places. Like there is select roles for certain people. You don't move up unless they leave. Right. And if they're not planning on leaving for 15 years, you're not moving up for 15 years.
Like, and people are like, oh my God, well just like work hard and like you'll make your way. And I'm like, it doesn't work like that. It's one, who you know, like the connections, like can you get an in somewhere? And also what you said, like, are people leaving? Like, is there an opening for you? Because they're not just going to create all these new jobs for these hundreds of blondes who moved from Texas to try and work in LA. Like, it was just so difficult. So then I got a call from MTV and they were talking about some untitled dating show, which at the time, it was X on the Beach. I didn't know, but you know, I was just gonna say yes to anything because I didn't really know what my path was. I was like, am I trying to do this reporting thing? Like, I hadn't really built a huge following, so I wasn't doing social media full time. I was like, what the hell do I do with my life? So I figured, why not say yes to this opportunity? I did that. Then 3 days later, I left to go film the challenge.
Oh my God, so really, you went back to back reality, which is a lot. Like, how was that for your mental health?
Horrible.
Because you get so many people's opinions, then you see yourself and you're like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have worn that outfit, or I shouldn't have said that.
Right.
How was that process for you?
It was hard. I think that's the main reason why I stopped doing it. Because I went from filming X on the Beach for 5 weeks, nonstop, of being on camera, partying, lack of sleep, just like this emotional roller coaster. And then, like, full transparency, the main reason I did X on the Beach was with the hopes of going on the challenge. Like,
gotcha.
I'm athletic, I'm fit, like, I wanted to compete. I was like, this seems like a good fit for me for a show.
Yeah.
So when they called me and they're like, hey, it's a quick turnaround, like, can you do it? And I was like, absolutely. Like, completely forgetting, like, maybe where my mental head was at, or my mental space, like. But I was like, I'm gonna do it. I don't care. So I literally wrapped X on the Beach. I think I had 48 hours to unpack, repack, go get my shots, do my medical, like tell my parents, like,
hey, by the way,
I got my phone back, but surprise, like I'm literally leaving in 3 days. So I packed everything, went to Africa. So random.
So crazy. So
insane to think about. Filmed the challenge. I was there for 2 weeks. I ended up being partners with the guy that I dated, who is now my ex-boyfriend, which I'm sure you've heard all about that. But, and then from there, like having to rewatch the shows and like go through, like, it's just hard. It's difficult. MTV is a different ball game.
Yeah,
like,
I feel like the way that they edit is very more like, I don't know, it's kind of choppy, it's kind of raw, versus like The Bachelor is very like streamlined.
Yes.
There's good lighting. There's like, it's their job to make everybody look either really good or really bad. I feel like MTV just doesn't give a shit.
No, MTV is in the business to make everyone look bad.
Yeah.
Like I tell everyone who wants to go on the shows, I'm like, all right, forewarning, like, do you like your life? Are you a happy, well-adjusted human? If the answer is yes, don't go. Like, because they're in the business, they want to make the best TV possible. And how do you do that? You create the most drama, the most chaos, like the most tears and emotions that you can, and that comes at the cost of a human being. Yeah. So after that, I kind of was like, okay, slow your roll. At this point, I had built a pretty solid social media following. So that's when I was like, I think I can do this full time. Like, I'm pretty good at social media. I had built kind of a solid brand, and I was like, I think I'm going to try this. Like, I had gotten a few brand deals. I'd started working with the manager, and from there, I just kind of built it, and now that's my full-time job, and here I am.
It's amazing. I'm going to take it back to when you first moved to LA. How was that process adjusting? Did you know a lot of people out here? Because I feel like a lot of people want to move to a new city, but they're so scared of like not having the friends, not having the support system. Like, did you have a good base over here, or were you pretty much starting from scratch?
I was pretty much starting from scratch. Again, I knew the girl I was living with, so I just had like one friend. She knew people. I had a few girls from college that I knew, so I could like kind of go out with them, but like I wasn't best friends with them. And then, like, I had no family. Like, my parents and my sister, they were all back home in Texas. So I really kind of took a gamble. And I get that question a lot, too. Like, oh, my God, like, I want to move to LA. Like, I want to move to a new city. And I'm always like, do it. But you're going to have to push yourself out of your comfort zone. Like, if you are someone where, like, you like your bubble and, like, you want things to come to you, then don't. Because, like, you're going to have to go talk to strangers. You're going to have to, mingle and be like, hey, like, who are your friends? Can I meet up with you? So it's, like, really, like, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. But I felt like I needed to do that. Like, I had been in Texas my whole entire life.
Yeah.
In, like, a small town. I was in Austin. Like, I grew up with the same people. So I was like, I think it's time for me to try something new. And I love it so far.
What would be like your 5 top tips for somebody who's moving to a new city to like cultivate friendships?
First, join Facebook groups. I think that's huge, and I feel like not enough people take advantage of them. Like, there's a Facebook group for everything. Like, I'm pretty sure there's like a hiking group in LA.
Yeah.
Like, there's like young singles in LA. There's a super awesome girls group, and I forget what it's called.
Is it called Ladies of Los Angeles?
No, but I've heard of that one.
Yeah.
It's a really big one, and you have to request, maybe it's like Girls Night Out.
I haven't seen that one, but yeah.
I think you have to get like invited by a member in there, so like reach out, see if you know someone, because like it's just a massive Facebook group of girls constantly being like, hey, who has advice? Hey, I need a roommate. Like, who's looking for someone? I need a hairdresser. Who wants to meet up for like a comedy show? So like take advantage of that. I also think I'm a Christian, and like joining a church I think is a super good way, because there's so many young people. So like if that is your thing, definitely go to a church, try it like a small group. The gym. Yeah. I'm a huge fitness advocate. Like obviously I teach fitness, but I've met more friends in the fitness industry than anything else.
That's so interesting. That's funny because I see that space is so competitive from what I see from the outside, that like I know influencer, there's like subsectors of each thing, but I've always like heard that it was very competitive. So that's funny that you say that.
It's competitive. I feel like for influencers, yes, I totally get that, because like that's kind of what I do, is like fitness influencing and posting workouts. And there's a lot of girls all doing the same exact thing, all with apps, all with challenges, all with merch, like like trying to work with the same brands. So yes, I think that is. But if you're just there to enjoy fitness, I think it's a really awesome like place to meet like-minded individuals. Like when I first moved to LA, I needed something to do with my time, because I was like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah, you're like, help someone.
I need like a hobby or like a part-time job. I don't know what I'm doing. So I started working at the front desk of SoulCycle.
Amazing.
That was my first job in LA, and I knew no one, but I made all of my friends there. Because it was people who were like, hey, you want to work out? Like, you want to better yourself. Instead, like, I feel like in the first couple weeks when I wasn't doing that, I was going to clubs. Yeah. I was like partying a lot. Like I thought that was how I was going to make like meaningful friendships. And I was like, plot twist, you're not going to meet anyone at Warwick.
Yeah, like that's not happening.
You're literally not.
You're going to see the bottom of a tequila bottle, and that's about where we're going to
And that's it. And then you're never going to talk to those people at your table ever again. Yeah. So I definitely think like, just be mindful of where you're meeting people. Like you're a product of the 5 people you surround yourself with. I always think of that. So if you're hanging out with people who like to hike and go to the gym and cook dinner, like cool, that's your people. But if you're only hanging out with people who want to party and that kind of lifestyle, I mean, cool, but you're the product of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So like being mindful of that is for sure important.
Yeah, I actually met my assistant Sophie on a Facebook group.
No way! We love that!
Literally, I don't even know what I posted. I was like, hi, I need help. Lots of help.
Yeah.
I need help. But it's crazy, like even Bumble BFF. Like I feel like people sleep on Bumble BFF.
I need to use that.
It's actually so fun. I had like some crazy stories. There was like a girl who was definitely off her rocker, and I was like, whoa.
Alright, so be mindful.
Be mindful. Even if like Anne too, she was from Oregon, so I was like, oh my gosh, friend. And then I was like, whoa. We are swiping left. But I think people sleep on that, because I think for girls, especially after college, like either a lot of people were in sororities or they had a really good like support system, and then when they move, they're like, holy shit, adult friendships are hard, and they're way different than like college. It was like, what frat party are you going to? What are you wearing?
Let's go.
But like now it's like, what do you want to do with your life? And that like pivot between college and then like real adult life comes so quickly. And then I feel like it's harder to connect with people, because it's more about like the person than the activity you're going to.
100%. And I feel like it's hard to meet people, like you're only meeting like your employees, or like people in your workspace. And I feel like especially as adults, like you need to make friends outside of the workplace, but then it's like, wait a second, but I'm only hanging out with the people that I work with. So like having to like find new hobbies and like realize that, and like that's what's hard. I feel like for me and you, like I'm in an influencer space, and influencers aren't necessarily the most, they're mainly all great, but like I'm sure you've got it's competitive. And not everyone wants to be your BFF. They want to get coffee, they want to get something from you, and then they want to move on.
Or two, I don't know, like for me it's been like something that I do that's kind of like a vibe check. Like anytime that I'm done with a situation, like whether it was a coffee date, whether it was an event, and I had like an interaction with someone, I kind of gut check myself, and I'm like, was that a good interaction? Did that make me feel good afterwards? Because like I know it's like the cheesy Martin Luther King thing, but you'll like never forget how people make you feel, and you can instantly know.
It's so true.
And if a dog doesn't like them, like,
and if they don't pet dogs, I'm like not everyone's like a dog person, but like if they like just ignore like a puppy, I'm like,
what's wrong with you? Are you
what kind of human are you? Can we be friends?
Or like the dog. This sounds so weird, but animals like read people's vibes.
They really
and I've
do.
noticed that. Like, if I brought a guy around my parents and the dogs all fucking hated him, he was out. Like, we knew.
Sorry.
We're like, this is not going well. But I feel like too, when you can kind of like gut check after those interactions, you can kind of tell if people are using you.
100%. I think that's so important too, and something that has taken me up until today to learn is like you have to trust your gut. I am so good at ignoring like my gut. Cause I'm like, well, like, I don't know, like I'm such a people pleaser too, but like your gut will never ever lead you wrong. Like, so like listening to that feeling in the pit of your stomach is so important. Cause like it's true, it's like it's your intuition, it's not gonna lie to you.
Speaking of kind of like diet things, like I feel like your diet can be like what you watch, what you listen to, kind of who
100%.
you surround yourself with. What are some things that you do to like cultivate your diet and like mental health?
Therapy. I'm the biggest advocate, and I don't care like what kind of therapy. Like online therapy. My therapist, I've yet to ever meet her in person.
Okay, so do you do phone calls? Do you do virtual?
Zoom.
Okay, Zoom.
So just do it via Zoom because I can be in the comfort of my own apartment and like we're busy. I'm never home.
Yeah.
And like that's what kept me from going to therapy for so long. I'm like, oh my God, my schedule. But like now you can do it from anywhere. Like pick up your phone, do a Zoom, whatever it may be. And I've told so many people like there's so many resources like BetterHelp, stuff like that. But I think even if you think there's nothing wrong with you, I feel like that's like the stigma around therapy. It's like people are like, well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with me. Like, I don't want to admit that like I'm a flawed human. It's like, no, like you can have the best life ever, be like the most well-adjusted, quote unquote, normal, and it's still healthy to just talk to someone.
Well, and too, a lot of times I feel like people think that they need to go to therapy because something is wrong, which I feel like that's so not
true.
Like, there's a lot of things that you want to work on instead of having like a major catastrophe, like moving out, breaking up, like somebody died. Like, there's so many little things that like we pick up as like children that we bring into our adult lives, and like things we have to unlearn. 100%. And people just like, it's very interesting. Like I was talking to a girlfriend about it, and she was like, I don't want to go to therapy because she had a lot of childhood trauma.
Yeah.
And she was like, divulging that to a complete stranger would be so hard. But I was like, at the same time, who else are you going to talk to it about?
Right.
If you don't talk to it like with yourself, like journaling or something along
100%.
those lines, then, I mean, this person knows nothing about you. What a better clean slate.
And they're like, by law, they can't say anything. Like, they literally can't disclose any of your secrets.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I also think it's healthy, too, to talk to someone who's just, like, an unbiased third party. Because, like, I'm the worst. Like, I'll go to my friends and my mom and my dad and, like, they're biased to me. Like, they're obviously going to be like, well, F that guy. Like, you're amazing. But, like, sometimes you need just, like, someone who knows nothing to be like, hey, here's a wake-up call. Here's what I'm seeing. I know nothing about you personally, but, like, maybe try this. So I'm actually, after this podcast, I have my therapy session. That's why I was like, I have a heart out. Gotta go talk to Carly. She's the best.
Do you go weekly? Like, what does that schedule look like for you?
I go weekly, and she's an angel. She's like, all right, what's your schedule? I'm like, oh, Carly, like, I'm disappearing to Nashville. So like, she's really great about working around my schedule. And yeah, like, therapy's expensive. I think that's what a lot of people are like, oh God, I get it. $150 for
an hour, most of
50 minutes is a lot of money. But like, when you think about it, okay, how many times do you go to dinner twice a week and spend $150? You know, like, we're so quick to throw money when it comes to like
Uber Eats.
Yeah, Uber Eats or like Starbucks or Postmates, but it's like, why are you not spending money on your mental health? Like, I feel like that is something as a society we completely ignore, like, these days. So I'm like, team therapy, especially like after I went through my breakup, that people are like, how did you do it? Like, you know, you seem like you're doing so good. And I'm like, because I literally could not have survived without talking to a therapist. Like, there's just something about it. So big advocate for therapy. Journaling, I think that's important every single morning. I try. I'm not the best about like journaling before you pick up your phone. Yeah. I mean, you get it. Like,
I'm the worst. I'm literally, it's like ding, ding, ding. I'm like, all right, who's texted, who's called? There's like 85 emails. The one thing that I've actually done, and it's on it right now, I will put it on until like 9:45, do not disturb. Because I'm like, okay, most people, like, I'm like, if it's before 9:45, someone better be dead. There must be a limb missing. You can figure this out yourself. But after 9:45, then I'm like, hey, I'm available to like work with you, give you what you need.
I'm gonna start doing that. Because I'm like, all right, 20 minutes, all right, it's 7:20, like start answering all your DMs, your emails,
my gosh, yeah.
TikTok, Twitter. I'm like, there's just always something. So like trying to take 20 minutes to do something that is beneficial to you before you get on social media, I think is super important. And also just eating right. That's such like a broad statement, but I feel my best. I feel most like mentally clear when I'm fueling my body, I'm eating properly. Like when I'm eating Postmates every day and drinking a lot of alcohol. Like we all have those moments. Like my month of May, I was such a degenerate. It was my birthday month.
That's why. You have to every May.
You have to. Every day I was legit, I think I was hungover like 3/4 of the month. But I've never felt worse.
Yeah.
And like I hate saying that because it's like, oh, you want to have fun, but like just be aware. Like when you're feeling bad, like try eating healthy, you know, like drinking a lot of water, like just being mindful of little things that can make such a huge difference in just like your day-to-day activities. So I'm always like, fuel your body with good foods, whole foods, eat. I'm big in the fitness industry and I come across so many women who are like, oh my God, like I had 500 calories today. And I'm like, what? Like, no, like prioritize breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Having a protein, a carb, and a fat for every single meal, like it's so important. Like, and that's like actual. Like when you asked about diet, I'm like, no, pay attention to your diet. And I'm against like all the fad diets. Like I can go on a tangent about that, but I'm just like, fuel your body. You are a machine. Think of yourself as like a Bentley or a Benz. Like you're gonna fuel it. You're gonna take care of it. You're gonna wash it. all that stuff. So being mindful of that, I think, is important.
Speaking of like trends, what are some trends that you're seeing that you either love or don't love? Like the 12:30, I think 3.
I love 12:30.
I love that as well. What are like some other ones that you've seen that you're either like, hey, I'm on board for this, or this is like so incorrect?
Okay, first, I literally do 3:30 a couple days a week just because like I like mindless things. Like for people who are intimidated by the gym or like they don't know a routine, like that's a super easy one to hop on a treadmill, put some incline on, listen to a podcast, and I always tell people 30 minutes is better than nothing. Yeah. So whatever you can do, I don't care if you go walk for 30 minutes, just do it. So love 3:30. Okay, this is going to be a polarizing one, and
I'm here for it.
I am not a scientist. I am not a nutritionist. I am not that educated on this, so keto people don't come for me.
Yeah.
I can't get behind keto.
No,
I don't get it. I've read up about it, and to me, like, again, don't know the science. I feel like all the keto fans are going to come for me.
There's a keto thread?
Literally. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be on, like, keto Reddit. But it just doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, your body and that much fat, I understand ketosis, you got to get there. But I'm just like, in the long run, like, yes, maybe this is like a fad thing where, like, you do it for 6 months and you drop a crazy amount of weight. And, like, I've heard people see crazy results. But long term, like, your cholesterol and, like, eating that much fat, like, I had an argument with my Uber driver about keto because he was telling me, and he's like, yeah, like I melt a whole stick of butter and I put it in my coffee.
That is disgusting. The amount of diarrhea that you would have.
I literally was like, wait, excuse me? And I was like, you do realize that's not good for you. Like, okay, yes, avocado, healthy fat. Sure. There's ways, I'm sure, to do keto. But
like some margarine up in your coffee in the morning?
Oh, a stick of butter, people eating like a block of cheese.
Like country crock. We're having a country crock.
Look, I love a mac and cheese too, but I don't need to eat a tub of cheese every day. No. So that's one where I'm like, I don't know if I buy into it. And that is one I feel like to the end of time, people are going to argue about keto. But for me, I'm like, please, guys, don't melt a stick of butter and put it in your coffee. I don't think you're going to feel very good.
Yeah, and too, something that I've realized, I started working with a trainer and a nutritionist, and she's like, stop eating what everybody else is eating. That's like, every single person is so different.
So different.
And, I mean, you know this better than everybody else, but you could work out the same as someone, eat the exact same things, you would look nothing like them. Speaking of another hard part that we're just going to touch on, you're like, all right, here we are. So you went through a very public breakup, and finding that out and putting that out on a podcast. I listened to the podcast that you did. How was that then going back into social media, knowing what you know and knowing what now you had put out in the podcast?
Oh my God, it was probably the most terrifying moment of my life. I remember, because I wasn't going to do the podcast. I went back and forth for a long time. I was like, it was weighing heavily on me. Like, I had this weight just sitting on me because I work on social media. Like, my life is out there, and I felt like I couldn't move on and just live and actually be happy and start to heal until I said something.
Yeah.
And I know myself and my character. Like, I didn't want to bash anyone. Like, I didn't want to, like, spew hatred, even though, yeah, I felt a certain way.
100%.
So when I found Gabrielle's podcast and I read her book and I realized, like, we had the connection, I was like, I think I'm going to do this. But I freaked out.
Yeah.
It was like the night before the podcast, and I even messaged her and I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm so nervous about the feedback. And she was like, it's gonna be fine. Like, this is your story. You're allowed to own your story. You're allowed to say what happened to you. And that goes for anyone out there. If something happened to you, that is yours to say. So I kind of knew that in the back of my head, but like the morning it came out, I was like sweating. My heart was racing.
Did you get to see it before?
No.
Okay, so she like published it.
Yeah.
For like some backstory for you guys, tell us like a little rundown of kind of what happened in case they haven't seen the podcast.
Yes. So I was in a very public relationship for about 3 years. It ended very publicly with him being unfaithful. It all happened very quickly. I found out. I left immediately, packed my stuff. You can listen to the whole podcast where I break it down. It's FML Talk with Gabrielle Stone. That was my first time to ever kind of publicly say the details of what happened. But yeah, it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through. Like, I love that person more than I probably love myself, which was one of the issues I'm now learning.
Yeah.
But yeah, when the podcast came out, this is going out for like millions of people to possibly listen to. And I knew you're going to get some support. And my mom actually told me this. She was giving me a pep talk and she was like, you need to be very aware. You will get some support and you will get some negative feedback, but you've got to be okay with that. Like, so I went into it knowing that, and then I was blown away by the feedback, like the positive feedback. I think I got maybe a couple negative messages, maybe. Everything else was just absolute support, people saying that I helped them get out of a toxic relationship, girls saying that they've gone through the same thing. Like, so it was just such like a heartwarming moment to realize you're not alone. Like, there's so many people out there going through the same exact thing as you. It just takes you being brave enough to be vulnerable, which is very scary.
Well, especially about something that's so personal. I think like people can talk around, but you guys really went into it in each individual detail, which I think is just, it's hard. Like a lot of times people break up and you see influencers and they're like, oh yeah, we're not together, and they never share the story.
Yeah.
The difference is what people don't really realize is like YouTube couples and all these people who like build businesses together, do collaborations together. It's not only like your personal life, it's your work life that just got shattered.
Yeah.
So like anything that you guys had planned to do work-wise is now canceled. That's money lost, you're heartbroken, as well as the fact that like now it's up for public discussion on how you may or may not have handled things.
Right. Trust me, I saw the Reddit threads, and it's like, it's so easy for people to be like, well, just don't go and read it. Okay, yeah, the easier said than done. Like, trust me, I didn't want to, but like when you're heartbroken and you have everything on the internet, and then the hardest part, and like, I know people were not being malicious with this, but people would send me stuff. So it's like when you're even like trying to ignore everything, but then people are sending you links and screenshots and all of this, and like to try and deal with that was just incredibly difficult. I remember I called my manager and I had like a complete breakdown, and I was like, am I going to lose my job from this? Because you're tied to someone and people follow you for that, a lot of the reason because you're in that relationship, and my money is made from social media. I was so terrified. I was like, I need to leave this situation. It is not good. It was harmful to me. But there was 1% of me that was like, do you need to stay so you can pay your rent? Yeah. And that's like a scary reality. And finally I was like, you know what? No, I don't care. If I have no money and I have to move home to Texas and live with my parents, I'd rather do that than stay in a situation where I'm being like treated poorly. So
did he ever do like any type of like rebuttal podcast or ever come out and say his side of things, or was he quiet afterwards?
I think he was quiet.
Did he ever reach out to you afterwards?
No. There's been, I talked about this on the podcast. There was like an email exchange, a couple of those. and then I opted to just block all contact. So whether an attempt was made, I'm not really sure. And honestly, I don't care, because you could spend your life wondering, romanticizing, are you gonna get an apology? Are you gonna get closure? And it's like, no, like, I'm gonna give myself the closure because I deserve to be happy and I deserve to move on.
Have you seen him since?
I ran into him twice.
Okay.
And I think, did I talk about that? I did talk about that on the podcast. Yeah. So I ran into him twice. Again, if you want to listen to FML Talk, I break all of that down. But yeah, that was the only interaction. They were not my favorite experiences, to be quite frank, but it opened my eyes to things haven't changed, and everything that I knew about someone was actually true. So silver linings, I'm big on silver linings, and throughout the whole entire process, it was one silver lining after another that realized, like, I'm where I'm supposed to be. Kind of sucks. I'd love to, like, not be lonely and, like, not spend my time alone on my couch watching Netflix, but, like, it's fine. We're being patient. I know my guy's out there. Eventually he'll come. I just gotta wait.
What have you done post-breakup to kind of build yourself back up? Like, what are some things if someone's going through a breakup right now or trying to just, like, get to that next phase? Yeah. What are some things that, like, you did?
For sure.
Even if it was, like, eating chocolate on your couch. Like,
definitely do that. One, give yourself some grace. Like, if you're wanting to stay in bed and cry all day long, do it. I think that was the hardest thing for me, because I'm like a busy bee. I'm like, all right, book a flight, do this, go to work, film an ad, like, do whatever you can to stay busy, to not feel. And that was, a lot of girls messaged me this, and I'll never forget this advice. They were like, feel the feelings, go through the shittiness, and you're gonna come out stronger, but you've gotta sit in your feelings. And that was like the biggest realization for me. It's like, sometimes sit in your bed and cry for an hour and just do it. Allow yourself to feel the feelings. So definitely do that. I also had a journal, and I wrote in it every single day. And now, 8 months later, I'll go back and read some of the entries. Anytime I'm, like, feeling sad, or I'm like, I'm lonely, or like, oh, did I make the right decision? Even though, like, I know deep down I did, I'll go back and read and be like, oh my God, this is what I went through. Like, these are the emotions. So definitely journal and keep the journal. So whenever you're feeling like, did I do the right thing? Go back and, like, the number one thing I did after a breakup is I wrote down what I don't have to deal with anymore. Write down everything. Because it's easy to romanticize. Well, like, when you're sad, like, you miss the good things of someone. You miss the happiness of the relationship, which is so normal. But you've got to put yourself back in that situation and remember, like, the negatives. Like, you can't romanticize everything, even though I know it's really easy. And then lastly, lean on family and friends. For sure. Like, you're going to want to sit, you're going to want to be alone, and you're just going to want to be, like, sad in your apartment. But you have so many people. You might not feel lovable. You might not feel like you have any love in your life after a breakup, but you do have it. It might not be with a romantic partner, but you have friends. You have so many family that, like, love you. So, like, utilize time with them. And then lastly, I mean, this was a big one for me. Do the things that you didn't get to do in a relationship. I put so many things on the back burner because I was so invested in, like, another person. So make a list. Like, did you want to start a blog? Do you want to travel somewhere that you weren't able to do because you were wanting to go with another person and had to work around their schedule, etc.? So, like, utilize this time being single. Like, make a list. Do all the things that you wanted to do.
Yeah, I think, and too, I think it's good to, like, a lot of times after breakups, you're like, fuck, I fucking hate this person. Yada. I wrote down too, even, like, after I was cheated on, like, what experiences I got from that, like, whether that was good or bad. Like, maybe it was my self-worth, or maybe it was the fact that, like, I was proud of myself for being able to move on. Because true, there's got to be that silver lining, and, like, even if you don't know, like, it's going to be there. And then that's what I would do too. I'd, like, go back and look at my list, and I was like, all right, we're doing okay.
We're doing good today. Like, we're not where we were, like, 6 months ago. So yeah, like, keep the journal. I'm like, I'm gonna frame this eventually.
Honestly,
on my tear-stained, like, ink smudged pages. I'm like, eventually they'll go up, like, in my future home. Look where you came from.
This is when mom came. This is when she dated John and Todd and Kevin.
Like, you bring in, like, your new boyfriend. You're like, oh, maybe don't go in this room.
You can't go. It's, like, locked. So what, dating now, what are some of your icks or things that you're loving? I love to talk about the icks because I just think it's so good. And people have, like, the freaking funniest ones. Like, ones that you're like, wait, what? So what are your icks?
my number one ick when I like see a dating profile, and like maybe for you, like even this isn't a red flag, but I'm like, if their Instagram profile is in their like dating app, I'm like immediate ick.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, what's the are you trying to gain followers here? Like,
oh, I so did that. I was like, add me.
But I think for me, because I work on social media, I get so like icky, like and icked out that I'm like, oh, I don't want another person like who cares about Instagram as much as I do. Like, so immediately I'm like, no, like, and you know what? If you have like a super funny bio and like it's all this stuff and I vibe with it, and then like at the end it's like your Instagram bio, I can kind of ignore that. But when it's like you're giving me nothing and it's just like Instagram, I'm like, ew.
Oh, I feel like
ew. So like that's definite an ick.
Okay, yeah, Brian literally had 5 different pictures, one from each decade. We're like, Brian. We love him, but I was like, what's going on? My biggest thing that I did was FaceTime them. So it like kind of saves the time if you do like a 5-minute FaceTime.
But how do you set that up? Because that's where I struggle, where it's like, I want to be like, hey, let's FaceTime, but they jump straight. You want to meet for drinks? No, I don't really want to meet a stranger for drinks. Like, how did you approach that?
He actually did, but I did it with somebody else before I had chatted with him, and I just said, hey, oh my gosh, I love your vibe. Like, I have time in between, like, some meetings between, like, 1 and 2. Would you like to hop on a FaceTime? Like, I'd love to kind of, like, see you, quote unquote, in person, like, virtually, and put, like,
smart.
And do, like, LOL to see if we vibe. If we do, would love to, you know, get together, like you said.
Okay.
And then I feel like, too, it, like, kind of takes the edge off from, like, you're not as nervous if you get nervous for dates.
Right.
And, two, if they're, like, fucking weird, don't look like their pictures, not a good vibe, then you're like, hey, you know what, I didn't necessarily feel the chemistry on the call. Thanks for your time. Ta-ta.
Ta-ta for now.
Ta-ta for now. Move along. Skip along.
No, I need to do that because I'm not kidding. That's been my biggest struggle. It's like, I'm trying. You know, I'm really putting myself out there because I know, you know, like, in order to date, like, you've gotta do it. You've gotta do the things. Okay, I get it. Mom, that's for you. Like, I'm doing the things. Doing the things like you're telling me to, okay? I'm trying. But, like, I'll meet up with guys and, like, great conversation, but I'm not kidding. They look nothing like their profile. And to me, like, I get frustrated because I'm like, there should be a 6-month window. Like, dating apps should not allow any uploads prior than, like, 6 months ago. It's like, I don't want to date 2014 you in college. I'm dating 36-year-old you. Like, you look different. And, like, look, I'm short kings. I love a short king. I'm not against it, but you've got to disclose that.
Yeah, you can't the guys that are like 6 foot and you're like,
You're like, wait a because I'm building up all this stuff in my head, and then when I see you, even though you're a lovely person, like, it still puts me in a weird headspace where I'm, like, trying to understand.
Like, and then also I feel like, too, you started off with a lie. Like, you're 6 foot on a stool and some lips. Like, otherwise...
So, like, what else are you gonna lie about? Like,
exactly.
Does that mean you're insecure? Like, because I want, like, a confident guy who can own, like, his height and, like, everything about himself. Like, look, I'm not trying... As long as, like, we're, like, eye level, like, I'm chilling.
Exactly.
I'm not over here, like, a bunch of my friends are like, I will not talk to a guy unless he's over 6 foot. And I'm like... See, I'm not even that picky. I'm down for anything, but you can't lie about it. So I'm going to jump on, like, the FaceTime train. I'm also weird, like, something that gives me the ick is when guys are, like, super PDA in the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Like, when we date, yeah, cool. We can get to that point. But, like, I went on a date with a guy, like, a few times, and it was just, like, immediate, like, touchy-feely kiss. Like, we were at the Grove, like, getting coffee, and, like, in line at Zara, and he's, like, gazing into my eyes, and I'm like, there's a line of 12-year-old girls behind us, like we do not need to make out right now.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the easiest way for me to get the ick. And, like, all my friends were like, well, you just haven't met the right guy. Because, like, if it was Prince Charming, you're so in love with him, like, you'd make out with him.
You'd make out with him
anywhere. So, like, clearly I just haven't met the right one. But, yeah, I'm super weird. I'm like...
I'm trying to think of some of my ex. Socks with sandals.
Oh, hell no.
And then, no, like, guys who wear socks, like, if you have black shoes, you need to have black socks.
Yes.
Like, that's too much. Guys that can't figure out what a fitted suit is. Like, they, like, wear one that they got from Zara. That, like, they get up for their dad.
Yep.
I'm trying to, being rude to the waiter.
Oh, that's not even an ick for me. That's just, like, a straight up red flag.
Yeah. If they can't be nice, I feel like the people that are like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Like, if something came wrong, And then also, a big ick is if something comes with their food and they don't say something about it. That to me is actually,
I would never think about that.
I would think that too, if this isn't as big, unless it's like, okay, if it's something big, like completely didn't order, like yada yada yada.
Yeah.
But then if they're like, hey, I'm not gonna say anything, or you're not gonna speak up in our relationship, because if this is just a little thing, you can easily tell them, hey, oh my gosh, I think that there might have been like a miscommunication, maybe it was my end or your guys' end, but I can't have cheese on this. Whatever that is, I think there's like nice and polite ways to do it.
Okay.
But if not, I'm like, all right, are you not like...
That's an interesting one. I would not pick up on that, but now I'm going to pay attention because that's so true. Like,
yeah.
If you're like going to accept cheese on your burger when you're dairy free, like what are you going to accept in the relationship?
And also, you're going to have massive diarrhea for the rest of the day.
Like, I don't want to deal with that.
Exactly. We're supposed to go to a movie after this. So
we can't.
So we can't. Okay, what are some more icks?
When guys don't hold a door for me. Like,
okay,
I'm also from the South where, like, chivalry is not dead yet in Texas, but, like, that is such an ick for me. Like, it is such a simple gesture to just hold the door open. But in LA, you'd be, so many guys just waltz right in, and immediately I'm like, nah, done.
Yeah.
I don't even want to sit down at dinner with you. Like, that's for sure one. I don't like seeing guys' ankles. Like,
really,
if their pants are like a little short, and like I just like see like a bare ankle. I'm like, ew, like, gross. Like, I don't want to see your hairy ankle.
Okay, so is it worse if it's bare or if it's hairy? Like if they have no hair on their ankle, is that weirder?
Okay, I don't really even pay attention to like the hair versus the not hair. I'm just like, I don't know, just make sure your pants are long enough. Like, I don't want to see any ankle action at dinner.
I feel like it'd be weirder if it was hairless because then you shave your ankles.
Oh,
and then you're gonna be stealing my razor.
What's your thought, like chest hair? Like, is that an ick for you or like you dig it?
See, it depends on the guy because there was like one guy, I was like, what is going on? It was like patchy. Like nothing like a patchy chest hair situation to make you sprint for the door. I think like a little is tasteful unless you look like fucking Chewbacca. And you know if you look like Chewbacca. Like if it's coming out, you can see the hair.
If it's like tufts. Like I can't do tufts.
Or, okay, my worst one, like Brian is Armenian and Persian, like the boy gets a little hairy. If I can see the hair coming out of the shirt, like this is the shirt over here and it is poking, time to shave that shit.
Or just like trim it. Like I don't want a bare guy. Like that. Yeah. I don't want super hairy and I don't want like a naked baby. But like I just want like
an in between.
A trim it.
Exactly.
Like a manscaped stitch.
I like it. What do you feel about beards?
I like a beard, but I will say, like, I don't want, like, I can rub my fingers, like, up and in your, like, if it's longer, if your beard is better than my hair, like, we've got an issue.
If my ring gets stuck in your beard, it's too long.
Right. Oh, and that's, like, a big, like, if like, food or, like, liquid gets stuck in your beard, ew, like,
that's too much.
Massive ick. Like, I don't want to see, like, wetness in your beard.
Like, if I can tell what you've had for breakfast, not it.
No,
okay.
I like, like a 5 o'clock shadow is preferred.
Yeah, and if they, like, get it nice, clean, like
an edge, like a very clean-cut beard, I can dig that.
Okay, how do you feel about navy sheets? Like, if you go to a guy's house,
I saw a TikTok about this, and it was, like, viral, and I've never thought about navy sheets, but like when I saw the TikTok, I started thinking like, I feel like that's like a frat house, like a frat boy has icky navy sheet. Any kind of dark sheet, I'm like black, navy, I'm like, I just feel like you see like skin particles and like gross things that you shouldn't. It's an ick for sure. Like a light gray.
Yeah.
A white.
I feel like, okay, is there an ick for if you go over to somebody's house and they have really poor home decor?
Absolutely. I'm not kidding. I was FaceTiming with a guy and he was super cute and all I could see in the background was like this like awful like ninja poster thing and I was just like,
are your cousins over? Is that the Ninja Turtles in the background?
And I couldn't. I was just like, we immediately must cut this. Because what if we live together and you're trying to decorate my house with ninja paraphernalia, like whatever, like, I can't.
Into the storage unit.
Literally. So yeah, I think a way a guy decorates, it doesn't have to be great, but I think it shows a lot. Like, do they have taste? Like,
do they care?
Are they still in a frat house where if a guy doesn't have a headboard, hard out, no, red flag, run for the hills.
Run immediately. You're like, oh my gosh, my Uber's here. Just got here.
Oh my Get a headboard. Go to IKEA.
I'd be like, you know what? That's Facebook Marketplace. There's other ones too. Whatever.
Get a used one. I don't care. I don't need to know, but you need a headboard.
I agree. Okay, I have 2 last questions. Okay, how do you split your time on social media, and like what platforms do you post for what?
Oh boy. Okay, well, I don't split my time. To answer that, I spend my whole entire day on social media. I spend most of my time on Instagram because that is my business and that's where I make my income. Mm-hmm. I literally was just posting this on my story yesterday where I mentioned, I was like, I think Instagram is a dying platform. And I'm sure you kind of realize that too. It's just the engagement isn't there. They're changing the algorithm. People aren't seeing anyone's post. All I see now is recommended, like
I do too.
Suggested, and I'm like, no, I don't follow them. If I wanted to see them, I'd follow them. So I mean, I spend most of my time there, but now I am trying to kind of go over to TikTok a little bit more, just because I feel like it is easier to grow. So I'd say I spend 90% of my time on Instagram, 10% on TikTok.
How are you going to tailor your TikToks to be different than your Instagram? Are you going to post on both the same, or like what's your strategy?
See, right now I haven't been posting on both because I like to keep my Instagram a little bit more curated.
Yeah.
Fashion, fitness, it's my brand. Like, you know what you're going to see on my Instagram. Whereas I feel like my TikTok is just like my day-to-day, like the stupid shit that I obviously care too much on my Instagram to post, like the annoying stuff. So I feel like you see a little bit more of me, a little bit more authentic, like silly, goofy Morgan on TikTok, because I just simply don't care as much. Like, I got 50,000 followers, like, what up? Like, I'm just rolling with it. I also don't understand TikTok. I'm like, the shit that I spend all my time on, I put it on TikTok and 2 people like it. And the clip that I spent 8 seconds filming in my car gets 200,000 views. So I'm like, I've yet to figure out TikTok, but I'm just the randomness that's on my TikTok. So, but it's fun. Like, I like getting to be a different side where it's like, I feel like that's why people are going to TikTok more. Yeah. It's because you're seeing more raw, authentic, random, funny, like creative things. Whereas Instagram, it is a highlight reel. I get that.
Yeah. What do you want to be known for?
This is such a stupid, like, short answer, but I want to be known as like making someone who makes other people feel good. Because like you said, the MLK quote, like, you're always going to remember how someone made you feel. So like, I want to be known as just like kind and someone who made others feel good. And that's why I respond to all my followers. That's why I really try and build a relationship with every human who takes the time to DM me. Because they're going to remember that interaction. And if you're an influencer who makes people feel like shit and you ignore them or you're short and like all that, they're going to remember that. So like, I've been blessed with the platform. I'm so lucky. So if I can spread joy and positivity and make someone smile, like, that's what I want to do.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for coming and hanging out with the TVV babes today. Pick yourself out.
Oh my gosh. So follow me on Instagram. Engage with my content. It's Morgan Lee Willett on Instagram. Same on TikTok, Morgan Lee Willett. If you want any of my workouts, all that fun stuff, my website, movelikeMorgan.com.
And if you have any more questions, we will forward them over to her. Ta-ta for now, and we'll see you next Thursday. Mwah!